afternoon, everybody. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. My name is Christine Nakamura, Vice President of the Central Canada Office at the Asia-Pacific Foundation of Canada. Our team is delighted to host today's webinar on our upcoming Women's Business Mission to Taiwan and Vietnam, which is scheduled to take place from the 17th to 23rd of November, 2024. Thank you all for joining our webinar on trade with the Indo-Pacific. But first, I'd like to acknowledge that we are hosting you from Toronto on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. Now, just a few housekeeping items to note. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on our website after the webinar. Please check the chat box for instructions concerning this webinar, including the application processes, which will be spoken to later on. Audio interpretation in the official languages is available. Please check the instructions for access in the chat box. For technical support in English or French during the session, contact events@asiapacific.ca. Our mission to Taiwan and Vietnam will be our 8th in our Women's Business Mission series to Asia, dedicated to women-owned and led businesses. From 2019 to the end of 2023, we led 3 in-person missions and 4 in a virtual or hybrid format during the pandemic. All destinations are part of the huge market offered by what is now often referred to as the Indo-Pacific region. You can check our website for information on past missions. This mission series aims to provide Canadian companies representing sectors that are especially underrepresented by women with the opportunity and support they need to access growth markets in Asia. To date, for obvious reasons, we have mainly focused our efforts on the innovation and technology spaces, but we are open to consider other sectors as well for our November 2024 mission. You're probably aware of the Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy Ecosystem Fund, which was announced in Budget 2018 with the objective to support the Government of Canada's dual efforts: 1, to grow Canada's economy through international trade diversification, and 2, to advance gender equality and women's economic empowerment. Why? Like many economies around the world, SMEs make up the majority of all businesses in Canada at 99.7% as of 2023. And of this number, 18.4% are majority women-owned businesses. Pre-WEST funding, or the Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy funding, women-owned SMEs accounted for only 15.6% of all SMEs. So there has been a notable increase in the 4 years despite the pandemic. But obviously, there's a lot of room for improvement. With the WEST funding investment, the government aims to increase the number of women-owned companies and to facilitate their scale-up to grow Canada's economy. Given that more than half of the world's adult population is made up of women, facilitating startups and scale-ups of women-owned businesses can only have a positive impact on our economies. So in short, we launched this mission series project to support Canadian efforts to grow its economy by facilitating the globalization of women SMEs, whose focus aligns with the needs and demands of Asian markets, and at the same time advance diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, efforts in the private sector. Our team believed that the project could raise awareness in Canada and in destination markets of the potential of DEI in growing economies. But why Asia or the Indo-Pacific? Economies in the Indo-Pacific region have been growing at an incredible rate over the past 15 plus years. And that is why the government developed and published Canada's Indo-Pacific Strategy in late 2022 to draw attention to the importance of this region to Canada's continued and future prosperity. By 2040, the region will account for more than half of the global economy. In 2010, at market exchange rates, or MR, Asia's GDP was $17 trillion, but by 2050, it's projected to hit $174 trillion. Yes, $174 trillion. The region will also be home to more than half of the global middle class. As we are the Asia-Pacific Foundation of Canada with a mandate to deepen engagement between Canada and Asia, we realized that we had an important or key role to play in Canada's economic growth efforts. By facilitating women-owned or led SMEs to scale up through access to markets in Asia, we could kill two birds with one stone by growing our economy and advancing gender economic empowerment at the same time. Our mission to Taiwan and Vietnam in November is the last of our 2023 to 25 mission series titled Northeast by Southeast, Advancing Partnerships Between Canada and Asia. Northeast Asia is home to advanced economies, which include Canada's oldest trading partners, while Southeast Asia is a region of some of the fastest developing and emerging economies, in which Northeast Asian economies have invested heavily for decades. By targeting one in each group per mission, Canada can reap benefits bilaterally, trilaterally, and perhaps even regionally. Taiwan is an attractive market for Canadian companies due to its Canadian $1 trillion economy. With an export-dependent economy of 23.5 million people and a highly skilled workforce, Taiwan is at the center of global and regional high-technology supply chains due to its robust semiconductors, 5G telecommunications, AI, and the Internet of Things manufacturing industries. On December 22nd, 2023, Taipei and Ottawa signed a Foreign Investment Promotion and Protection Arrangement, or FIPA, to help protect and promote bilateral investments between the two countries' economies. Vietnam, on the other hand, had a strong domestic consumption base with its rapidly growing middle class and thriving export-oriented manufacturing, offering significant opportunities for Canadian companies. The Canadian $571 billion economy, home to 95 million people, has become integral to important global supply chains due to its skilled labor force and strategic geopolitical position. Vietnam is amongst the fastest growing economies in Southeast Asia. So why missions dedicated to women-owned businesses? Before we started our project, we met and spoke to some 300 women in business across Canada. Many had participated in general trade missions in the past, but we heard repeatedly that trade missions dedicated to women-owned businesses would be preferable, especially to traditionally male-dominated markets like those in Asia. Asian companies recruited for the B2B meetings, in such cases for women-only trade missions, would not have the option to select male-owned companies over those owned by women, presenting better potential results for women. So what's different about our trade missions, our women's trade missions? The WES Fund has enabled us to cover travel and accommodation costs of candidates chosen to be delegates on our missions. As women-owned companies are known to be disproportionately underfunded, the WES funding has allowed participation of companies that have a potential to succeed in the destination markets of Asia, but who otherwise could not afford to participate. In addition to having costs covered, our team has developed templates for our pre-mission and mission programs that benefit the delegates. Our panelists from past missions will share their experiences and benefits of participating in our missions a bit later. But I can say that our pre-mission and mission program templates are trending now and are being followed by others involved in organizing trade missions. AW, our Director of Inclusive International Trade to my left here, will speak about our templates during his remarks a bit later. But I should mention that because we cover costs, the selection process is competitive, as women-owned businesses across Canada are eligible to apply. I encourage you, if interested, to research the markets to see if your product or service aligns with the market demands or needs. And if so, you should apply. You may be pleasantly surprised with the outcome, as many of our past delegates were. The deadline for applications is June 28th, 2024. My staff will provide more details on the process a little bit later. So I'd like to share some of the outcomes from our past missions with you. Between 2019 and 2024, APF Canada has supported 175 women and gender diverse entrepreneurs in accessing markets in Japan twice, South Korea, Taiwan, Australia, New Zealand, India, Thailand, and Singapore. We facilitated 742 high-quality B2B meetings between Canadian entrepreneurs and potential Asian business partners. The B2B meetings resulted in signing of 27 actual deals with ongoing conversations totaling 58 inclusive signed deals. The collective value of these deals is estimated at just under 9 million Canadian dollars at the present time. But these numbers are likely conservative because we haven't been able to reach all past delegates on outcomes achieved. Health tech and clean tech sectors each comprised approximately 37% of this value, with ICT and edutech accounting for 15 and 12% respectively. In total, across Canada and Asia, the West-funded women's missions and related activities engaged almost 4,500 women in business and their supporters. In addition to the business partnerships achieved by our missions, a powerful network of women leaders and entrepreneurs in Canada and Asia has emerged as a collateral benefit to the mission program, which continues to grow with every mission. To ensure the network endures, we launched CanWIN, or the Canadian Women's International Network, in May 2021 to officially connect all the women we engage since embarking on this project. Business and thought leaders, past delegates, other interested women SMEs, and gender equality organizations are uniting together to create this CanWIN ecosystem to advance gender equality and economic empowerment of Canadian women in business through engagement with counterparts in Asia or the Indo-Pacific region. CanWIN welcomes women in both public and private sectors to work together to minimize barriers disproportionately affecting women entrepreneurs with the aim of facilitating the achievement of their full potential. On June 21, 2024, we'll be hosting our inaugural in-person gathering titled CanWIN Global Summit, Beyond Boundaries, Gender Inclusive Prosperity in Canada and Asia. This meeting of CanWIN members and non-members at Manulife headquarters in Toronto will bring together close to 200 women and non-binary entrepreneurs, business and thought leaders, and representatives of governments and organizations supporting women entrepreneurs from across Canada and 7 economies in Asia to share experiences, expertise, and advice on international trade and investment. A pitch session for early stage entrepreneurs is also on the program, with prizes for the top 3 winners, which include cash and a return ticket to Asia for the first prize and cash prizes for the second and third place winners. If you are an early stage startup, I encourage you to apply to pitch, as the jury will be comprised of investors from Canada and Asia who will provide beneficial feedback to help your journeys to success. Our project specialists will provide details on the application process later in the program. Before I hand over the mic to AW, our Director of Inclusive International Trade, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Government of Canada for their confidence in us and for continuing to support us through the West Fund, which has enabled the foundation to help so many talented women entrepreneurs in Canada. I probably covered some of your talking points, AW, so pardon me, but please provide the information on the pre-mission program, as well as our activities and mission agenda, including the objectives and anticipated outcomes for our trade mission in November. So over to you, AW.
Thanks, Christine. So just to pick up on a couple of items that you mentioned, our team will provide a link to our application to the trade mission in the chat, as well as a link to the Can Export program, funding program that you mentioned. Though those deadlines are different, our application to the trade mission is currently at the end of June, and the Can Export funding opportunity provided by Global Affairs Canada is May 31st, which is coming up very shortly. And another thing I wanted to pick up on was the collateral benefits of the trade mission, because one of the unintended but unanticipated consequences of the trade mission was the camaraderie that a lot of our delegates experienced. And you'll hear a little bit about that from some of our entrepreneurs who joined us in past missions later on in the webinar. But that key benefit of joining the trade mission is our very curated, competitive selection of a small cohort of diverse and innovative entrepreneurs from across Canada that join the mission. And so because of demand to stay connected with each other, with mentors, with new opportunities in the export space, that's why we really created the CanWIN network for the past delegates, but also any other women and gender diverse entrepreneurs who are interested in connecting with these international opportunities. And so I wanted to make that connection because the trade missions are part of the series of events that we offer at APF Canada. So if this opportunity isn't suited for you, to Taiwan and Vietnam, or your clients, then please stay connected to us to find out more about other offerings too. And so a few details about the trade mission itself. Like Christine mentioned, we have a bit of a template that we follow, that we've refined over the many years that we've been providing this opportunity to entrepreneurs. And so the uniqueness is that we combine high-level gender equality dialogues that gain the participation of high-level government officials, but also business leaders from both Canada and Asia. But also we combine that with real business matching opportunities. So over the 3 days in each country, in each market, we will be providing business and cultural briefings, site visits to innovative companies and technologies in the 2 markets that we're visiting, and participation in a gender equality symposium in both Taipei and Ho Chi Minh City. At the symposium, we'll have keynotes, fireside chats, panelists to really showcase the talent of our entrepreneurs, the thought leaders from Canada that we're bringing along, as well as their Asian counterparts that we're inviting to the symposia that you will be able to network with. And following that symposium is the real meat of the trade mission to these markets, is the business matching. So we, in partnership with B2B service providers in the markets, we match you with business partners based on the preferences that you list in your application and in ongoing dialogue with us. So this will be a full day of business meetings arranged for the successful delegates. And what successful companies get out of the trade mission is really what you put into it. And this begins with the application process itself. My colleague Sylvia will be speaking to this in a little bit more detail after me. But really, applicants should research and showcase in their application a good market fit for their product and service, a readiness to serve new international clients, and be very specific in your goals in the market. Do you want to meet distributors? Do you want to meet clients, new clients, manufacturers, research partners, universities, municipalities? Who do you want to meet? And the more specific your application is to the market, the better it is for us to gain visibility on your company, as well as the opportunity and fit for this mission.
I think if I can interject here, it'd be good to mention that we have strong support from the Government of Canada and our missions abroad through the Trade Commissioner Service, who has provided support to us for all the trade missions so far. So while we do contract out the B2B matchings to a service provider in market, the Trade Commissioner Service has complemented and supported the efforts very collaboratively, which has really got us the results that we need.
Exactly, and I know that a number of the TCS regional offices, as well as other TCS officials, are online today. So we thank you for your ongoing collaboration with us. And with the trade mission program, it isn't just a one-shot deal with the trip to the markets. Instead, we, in the months leading up to it, after the delegates are selected, we work with you, the successful delegates, to onboard you with market briefings, market insight reports that are specially tailored to your company and potential competitors and potential clients, both in both the markets. And so our team members, Julia and Sue, well, speaking after Sylvia, will be providing you a few more details about those pre-market briefings, in which we work with both the TCS as the Trade Commissioner Service, as well as the trade representatives from the destination markets that we're going to really get you prepared even before you get on a plane to the trade mission. So I mentioned our team. I want to introduce some of them that make this program possible. We have a small but mighty team spread across Toronto and Vancouver. The three up on the screen right now, Sylvia Rosario, Julie De Silva, and Su Zhong, are project specialists based in the Toronto office that you'll be hearing from today. And without further ado, if you don't have anything to add.
No, one thing I would like to add is that pre-mission, we try to arrange a networking session of all the candidates who've been chosen to participate in the delegation, because the lead up to the actual departure for the mission allows people to mingle, whether virtually or in person if they can, and learn about each other's businesses. And sometimes that results in support or help from somebody who's experienced something that the other hasn't. So we try to do a social gathering, a networking session with the group once the delegation is selected. And I think that's very important to continue that ongoing collaboration during the mission as well as after.
Absolutely. And so without further ado, I'll hand it over to our colleague Sylvia Rosario, who will speak a little bit about the application, the selection process, and eligibility. Over to you, Sylvia.
Hello, bonjour. I'm Sylvia Rosario, a project specialist at the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy team. I will briefly walk you through the eligibility criteria and selection process for the trade mission. So to be eligible to apply, you must meet 5 primary criteria. Number 1, your business must be headquartered in Canada. Your business must be women-owned and/or women-led. Your business must be a for-profit organization. Your business must have been in operation for at least 2 years. Your business must be a small to medium-sized enterprise, or as we call them, SMEs, with fewer than 500 employees. As our goal is to identify a cohort that can achieve maximum commercial success from this trade mission, we will also assess your company's export readiness. In addition to the 5 must-have criteria, we will roughly follow CAN export eligibility criteria to evaluate the export readiness of a company. So to qualify as an export-ready venture, your company must have a commercialized product or service or one close to commercialization. Your company must have conducted research on foreign markets and opportunities, particularly for Taiwan and Vietnam. Your company must have allocated resources, it could include human, material, time, and financial, towards internationalization. Priority will be given to entrepreneurs who have generated revenues exceeding 100,000 Canadian dollar per year for the past 3 years, made efforts to localize their product or services for an international market, but not necessarily in Asia, develop proprietary technology with the potential for long-term competitiveness, and define their primary product market fit. Please note that past participants are also eligible to apply and invited to apply to the business mission, and if selected, they will participate in the delegation. However, funding priority will be given to applicants who have not previously participated in APF Canada's in-person women-only business missions. Successful past participants may need to cover their own accommodation and airfare at APF Canada's discretion based on previous support. If you are interested in applying for the upcoming business mission and have previously participated in an in-person mission with APF Canada, we encourage you to apply for the Can Export SME funding opportunity to support your travel costs. Can Export's SME program is accepting applications until May 31st, 2024. We understand that the eligibility criteria and selection procedure may seem rigid, but please note that we review each application on a case-by-case basis, recognizing the unique situations faced by our women-owned SMEs. For instance, while we prioritize companies with annual revenues of at least 100,000 Canadian dollars, we have been flexible on this benchmark and made exceptions in a handful of cases based on their product market fit, innovativeness, and market objectives. For the small number of early-stage companies that we have supported, the trade mission provided them with unique growth opportunities otherwise unavailable to them. We strongly recommend that you apply as early as possible to allow us enough review time. If you require clarification or would like to know more about the eligibility criteria and selection process, please feel free to submit your questions to us via the chat function. We are also available for one-on-one meetings following this webinar. If you are going to be at Coalition and in Toronto, we will have a booth by the Women in Tech Lounge where we can provide more information. Attending the upcoming CanWIN Global Summit scheduled to take place in Toronto on June 21st is another opportunity to meet us in person and learn more about the trade mission. I would now like to invite my colleagues Sue and Julia, who will walk you through about the facilitation that our team does after the entrepreneurs get selected for the trade mission. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Sue Zhang and I'm also a project specialist on the West team. I'll be discussing a part of the process that will occur once you are selected to participate as a delegate in our trade mission. Once you are accepted into the delegation for our upcoming trade mission, there are a couple of items that we'll be providing to help you prepare for the mission. The items are the welcome package and the market briefs. Regarding the welcome package, it will include details about the mission, such as next steps and a detailed roadmap. It will also cover all logistical information to ensure that your trip is well coordinated. Additionally, you'll find contact information of our team so that you know who to reach out for various inquiries. With regards to our market briefs, they will be tailored market intelligence briefs provided to each and every delegate. And these briefs will be tailored to provide every delegate with a macroeconomic overview of the country and insights into political and regulatory policy trends. It will also help you develop a deeper understanding of the market environment. Additionally, we also highlight industry competitors so that you can identify potential partners and gain a sense of the competitive landscape. Potential competitive landscape. The briefs also outline opportunities and barriers to enter the market, equipping you with the knowledge that you'll need to navigate potential challenges and capitalize on available opportunities. These are some of the resources that will be provided to you by our team to support and ensure that our delegates have a clear understanding of what you bring to the table and help you set the stage for productive discussions and engagements in market. Now I'll be handing it over to my colleague Julia, who will share her insights on the lead up to the mission.
Thank you, Sue. Good morning, good afternoon from wherever you are across the country. I'll be happy to share a little bit about the action items that you will have to complete if you are a successful delegate on this upcoming trade mission in the weeks leading up to the mission. So one of the first items that our team requests that you do is complete a pitch video. This recording of your pitch video allows us to learn a little bit more about your company in your own words, as well as it provides the opportunity for our in-market partners and service providers to be well introduced to you as well as in the lead up to the mission. The next thing that we request that you do and participate in is the B2B meetings. So the team over at APF Canada, we work with in-market B2B service providers, and we will work with them as well as the successful delegates with the trade mission to facilitate these introductory calls between delegates and B2B service providers in this lead up. to the mission. So these service providers will work with you to facilitate connections with companies or distributors, partners, etc., within the markets of Taiwan and or Vietnam. Lastly, we do, as Christine alluded to earlier, we do a pre-mission orientation and training session for our delegates. So the main purpose of this orientation session is to prepare our upcoming delegates who will be doing business in Taiwan and or Vietnam. So we offer this session to learn more about the markets that you'll be immersed in within the week of the trade mission, all of the available government support, such as the Trade Commissioner Service, some of the support within the missions abroad, and as well as how you'll be able to enhance your export capabilities upon entry into the markets. So we work with partners such as the Trade Commissioner Service, law firms, government staff, and destination markets, and other key partners to help familiarize yourselves with the market. So this event will take place a couple of months before the mission. So usually we suggest blocking time off in advance to attend this event, and it will be a hybrid event to ensure all participation of all delegates across the different time zones in the country.
Thank you, team, for all those explanations. That was very helpful. So now we're very fortunate to have some of our past delegates from trade missions in the past to talk to us about their experiences, their successes, and benefits of participating in the program. And we're going to start off with, we've got Bronwyn Bridges, CEO and co-founder of Pragmaclin Inc. We've got Gina Nagano, President, Trocheck Energy Corporation from Yukon. I should mention that Bronwyn's from Newfoundland. Gina's from the Yukon, and Rena Tabata from Calgary, from the prairies. And at the end, unfortunately, Christina Kai, or Sai, the CEO and co-founder of Lydia AI, who is normally based in Toronto, is in Asia doing business right now. So she sent us a video. She's 13 hours time difference away from us, so she's provided a video for us. So with no further ado, I'm going to ask Bronwyn to start.
As mentioned, my name is Bronwyn Bridges. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Pragmaclin, which we founded back in 2020, myself and my co-founder, who has Parkinson's disease, and with my research background. I'm originally from PEI and moved around and have landed in Newfoundland and Labrador for my PhD research, which is where this all started. And actually, my first kind of introduction to the organization came from an accelerator in which a mentor suggested that I apply for the upcoming mission. And this was originally to Japan in 2022. Feels like a while ago now. The mission itself, I really wasn't sure what we were kind of getting into. We hadn't really scoped out as much in the Asian market earlier on because we knew it was far, there was a lot of time change, and it might be more difficult to do business. But the more we looked into it, we knew it was a specific fit for my business, which is in the Parkinson's disease space. And Asia has one of the fastest growing aging populations and is also quite far advanced in some of their healthcare. So we started to dive into the market a little bit more. And then when we got connected to the APFC organization, it was kind of, I feel like a match made in heaven because of how much coaching and teaching kind of there was up front too. So the part that was mentioned about the webinars and the briefing and really what you can learn about the market, I think was incredibly helpful before. I have also been involved with the Trade Commissioner Service and doing some of their programmings. And one thing that I think differentiates doing this programming with the organization is that there is so much hands-on work. It's a smaller delegation. They really get to know you and your company and who you're looking for. And that really plays out in the site visits and also the B2B meetings. And so I think we've gotten the most quality from B2B meetings that we still follow up with and are trying to now work with on some collaborative projects across borders. So I did the Japan mission, and then afterwards, since I've also been to Singapore with the group, but as well where was I just? I'm just having a blank about where in the world I am today. At the other trade missions that we went on, which was to Why am I pausing here? I'm so sorry, guys. South Korea, here we go. I had a moment. And Vietnam. And honestly, I gotta say, or sorry, Thailand and South Korea. Going into this one, we've also done some work with some of the other Asian markets. And I think that one thing that the group has not only done that's been really beneficial for us, taught us about this market, but has also been able to help us understand how we can spread from the markets we're learning about into other ones, especially culturally. There's a big gap in our healthcare system compared to the healthcare systems in Asia. And so one thing we found really intriguing was that in our B2B meetings, we were obviously doing some preliminary research to try and find out what they wanted and where their gaps are, because they're a lot different from us. But we managed to take a lot of that actually home and be able to integrate it into some of the clinical work we're doing on how to improve our processes in Canada. So from there, we were able to scout out some market research too, which was helpful for investment conversations. And where we're now talking to investors, they actually want us to scale into the Asian market next, as opposed to the Canadian market, ironically, knowing how big it is and that the business model actually works a lot better there than it does in the Canadian market after the US market. So something we've been able to figure out now is how we can clinically work with them. And there's so much funding programs, as mentioned at the earlier of the call. CanExport is a big one for travel, but as a part of the government funding programs, there's also a lot of research and R&D. So we work closely with the National Research Council, and they actually work closely with a lot of the Asian markets, Japan being a really big one. And now there's some other calls as well for Taiwan. Actually, speaking of and going there with an upcoming market, there is some joint research projects as well that have been launched. And so I think that they now know it is one of the biggest and growing fastest markets in this space, and there's a lot of opportunity. Some of the Asian markets are really ahead in tech, and some of them are really behind. And I think that was something on the last mission that we went on for South Korea and Thailand that became like abundantly clear going from one place right into the other in the same week, was that for Thailand, for us, they were kind of not ready for the tech. It was something we would have to work on in order to build up. And then you went into South Korea and they're like, we already have so much of this. And it was just kind of an opportunity to really understand how you can blend a lot of the work and really help within different markets. So I think for me, it's been a life-changing kind of opportunity, because being in person is the only reason that we've actually been able to have good, fruitful conversations with a lot of the people we work with. In the clinical space, it is so hard to get a meeting. It is so hard to schedule a meeting, especially with the time zones. By the time you send an email, it's now the next day and you're constantly back and forth through that. And so being there and showing that you're ready and willing to get on a plane and make things happen, I think they really respect that, especially when you're going through the clinical space for us in healthcare. So incredibly grateful for the opportunity to have those meetings. And I look forward to kind of sharing how it all plays out now. It's a slower market, but I think it's a rewarding one, because of in the beginning, we actually were told there was going to be not a lot of people wanting to sign NDAs and maybe not really super intrigued right off the beginning, but we've actually had great success with people being open to conversations, open to partnerships and collaboration. So I think keeping an open eye on how the market can expand, and there's a lot of really great resources, and this is just an incredible one for us.
Thank you so much, Bronwyn. And I will definitely take out of my talking points that it takes forever to do deals in Asia.
You should.
Because, it's made me a liar. So thank you for raising that. So that was Bronwyn Bridges from PragmaClin. And we're going to move now to Gina Nagano, president of Trocheck Energy Corporation. And she's based in Whitehorse, Yukon. Over to you, Gina.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, and thank you for this wonderful invitation to be able to give you some insights of my trip to South Korea and Bangkok. My name is Gina Nagano. I'm Trocheck First Nation. I'm from Dawson City, Yukon. I currently live in Whitehorse, Yukon, and I am the founder and co-owner of Trocheck Energy, which is a green energy company. We've been sort of in place since 2021 and sort of moving along slowly, and it wasn't until this incredible opportunity to be part of the Asia-Pacific Foundation delegation to South Korea and Thailand. And I think in the process of where I was with my business, in particular, Project Energy is in the green energy sector and into green hydrogen. And it's an alternative energy solution to fossil fuels, and the only emission from green hydrogen is water. So in particular, what we were trying to do is find a cleaner solution for energy in the north, which is a challenge. And I just want to say it was interesting in terms of the timing to meet Christine and AW and the team in the Yukon. And it was there that I learned of the Asia-Pacific Foundation trade mission to South Korea and Thailand. And it was, I don't know how to say it, but in terms of the timing and where I needed to go was South Korea, because South Korea was a leader in green hydrogen in particular. And I needed to learn more about the project that I was working on and what I believe to be Canada's or the world's solution to climate change, because we're impacted heavily in the north. As an Indigenous owned company, I'm not only I'm very passionately driven about the process and what I'm doing. So it was the application. We went through the application process, and what I liked about it was, for my experience, was the organization of your team, Christina, where they kept us on track, and we had to complete the application. We had to identify what we were looking for, who we wanted to meet and why we wanted to meet them. And in terms of what I was looking for is establish a network connections to the hydrogen production and distribution sectors that can further demonstrate the viability of hydrogen as an energy solution to northern leaders, regulators, and investors. So going to South Korea and Thailand, I was interested in meeting energy sector leaders, infrastructure developers, emerging hydrogen distributors that are innovating to actualize South Korea's significant investment in hydrogen technologies. So I believe the trade mission was a tremendous opportunity to learn from that experience of the Asian market leaders and establish new partnerships for the production and distribution of hydrogen. The experience going through the prepping for the business to business was really important, because it really narrowed down and helped me focus on who I wanted to meet, why I wanted to meet them. And it also allowed me to be more, I think, professional in terms of the business to business relationships that I was looking at developing. And going through the whole process, I was learning myself still about the world of green hydrogen. And one of the things that I did learn was that Canada had a relationship with South Korea already in green hydrogen, where Canada was developing a green hydrogen plant in the East Coast, and a portion of that, the green hydrogen, would be exported. And knowing that this was already being in place, I thought, wow, what an incredible opportunity to actually go to South Korea to learn about what I was looking for. So which was the green alternative solution. What the prepping was important. It would help us narrow down focus as to who we wanted to meet, what our discussions were, what could we learn from them, and how could they learn from us in terms of what we wanted to do. It was a simple things like having your PowerPoint presentation ready, having your business cards. I translated one of my business cards into South Korean language, and have your website ready, be ready for any follow-ups in terms of your partner relationships. I went over there looking for electrolyzers and to learn about the green energy and how advanced they were. The getting there was another, I think I had a bit of anxiety, because I've never been to any part of South Asia before. And I didn't know what to expect, but the preparation prior to going built my confidence in terms of, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I'm ready. I feel very ready in terms of being prepped, pre-prepped, and knowing who I was going to meet. We were provided a list of companies, business-to-business companies that we were going to meet. You got to know who they were, who they are, who they were. You were able to actually research yourself a little bit more about these companies that you were going to meet. So when you sat at the table with them, the confidence level was there to have these discussions. Because for me, coming from a community in a small town population of 38,000 in the Yukon, and you're meeting these, for me, I thought were corporate giants. It was that I felt the confidence was there for me to really have these discussions and take it to the next level. So upon, actually getting to South Korea, again, was the travel. Everybody met us there. The whole experience was incredible in terms of.
Gina, can I ask you to comment on some of the camaraderie, the friends you made amongst with the delegates, and how they have helped you during your journey into that trade mission and during the trade mission?
Oh yeah, like, oh my God, the delegates that we met, like just the connections, meeting with the assistant deputy minister herself was important to have that relationship on the ground. That was assistant deputy minister and chief of trade commissioner of global affairs, Ms. Sarah Wilson. Meeting with I'm trying to remember her name, and she connected Kim Zoon, who was she's part of the Simon Fraser University. She sits on the board, if I'm correct. Learning from them, and just understanding more and more about the relationships that we can develop between Canada and Asia, in particular for women. As for myself, being I think I was the only Indigenous women on the trade mission, was really important. We also had met with the I'm just trying to remember the who will help me here. Just
All
sorry.
right, that's great, Gina. Thank you
Yeah.
very much, Gina. If you
Yeah,
think
just
of a name, well, we'll bring you back on, okay?
Yeah, can I just say
Alright.
one more thing? Just
Yeah.
I think what I did accomplish was it exceeded my expectation, and that was meeting with a company in South Korea that I was able to develop relationship with, that gave me all the answers to my green hydrogen project and that much more. Everything that I was looking for was packaged in a beautiful little container that can be exported to Canada, so I can do my pilot project in the north of generating green hydrogen. And if it wasn't for this mission, I wouldn't be where I'm at in terms of going to the next level. So I really want to thank you at the Asia-Pacific Foundation.
Thanks very much for that, Gina. I'm glad that things are moving for you. So with no further ado, we're going to call upon Reina Tabata, the CEO of ShareSmart, or co-founder of ShareSmart. So Reina, over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm Reina Tabata, CEO of ShareSmart, and we are a company based in Calgary, Alberta, servicing healthcare professionals like physicians, nurses, dental professionals, to collaborate securely among themselves, usually with respect to patient care. Sometimes within the market, we are referred to as the WhatsApp for healthcare professionals, helping to facilitate conversations around patient care on a secure line so that healthcare professionals can be in compliance with their privacy obligations. And my first contact with the Asia-Pacific Foundation was when they were first organizing a mission to Japan. And I believe it was their first mission. And the timing couldn't have been more perfect, as we had initial conversations with potential partners as well as customers in Japan. And we had come upon the APF at a very early stage. So it was, although we were very motivated to go there as a team and, shake hands and seal some deals, the APF certainly helped us accelerate our plans, given the funding and the peripheral support necessary to ensure readiness of our team to advance the conversations we were having with some of the Japan-based hospitals and software partners like Apple Japan. Just prior to our going to Japan, we had become Canada's first health software development partner of Apple's in Canada. And Apple had made introductions for us overseas. In the Japan Apple group, what happened to be the most interested at the time. And so we were keen to get there and make the connections necessary to begin some pilots at some of the most innovative hospitals in Japan. And going on the mission certainly did that for us and more. Unlike some of the organizations that may have kind of not known what the APF might have been able to achieve, I had a background working for a Japanese company within the oil and gas sector, and I had heavily worked with the Trade Commission officers and other related entities. And during my time there, they had facilitated many networking events very similar to what the APF had planned for this Japan mission. So I was very eager, and I was really comforted that there was an entity that could really specifically advance the health tech organizations like myself succeed overseas. And so we continue to expand sort of the initial work that we were able to achieve in our initial mission. And so even we're headed out there again to Japan on Saturday to begin some additional pilots and such. But always, I think one of the points that they made earlier in the introduction of candidacy for missions is that I really appreciate that they are willing to support organizations more than once, because I think the needs are ever evolving. When we had first made contact with APF, it was very early stage conversations, and we really needed to sort of get our name out there and secure some pilots to drive additional investment that would help fund development dollars to advance our product. And COVID really sort of altered our trajectory in terms of how we service organizations and how we further commit to diversification of markets to ensure that revenue streams are diversified. And so we had the opportunity to go on a second mission, and that has been very interesting for us, because at that point our solution had evolved to more than a secure communication solution on mobile phones, to that which can facilitate telemedicine, which was a perfect timing during and post-COVID. At this point, we look forward to being considered for candidacy again, because as time passes, our ability to service organization changes. And we have certainly really enjoyed going on these missions with like-minded business leaders who have brilliant ideas about how you might approach things, how you might overcome even mental and psychological challenges as female leaders of organizations, because it can be a very lonely journey plugging along, chugging along, and grinding through the ups and downs and the trials and tribulations of running organizations. So I'm really appreciative, and I think you're guaranteed a very good productive time should you go on the upcoming mission to Asia.
Thank you very much, Reina. And Reina was part of our pilot project, the very first trade mission to Japan that we organized with private sector funding in 2019. And then she was selected as a candidate under the West Project for 2022. So in the 3 years, you did have quite a uptick in your scaling. So it was great to have you on board in 2022 as well. So thank you very much, Reina. And now we have a video message from Christina Thai, who is the co-founder of Lydia AI. And as I mentioned before, she's in Asia right now. So she's kindly produced a video last night in order for us to screen it for you today. So with no further ado, we'll have Christina on screen.
Hi everyone, my name is Christina. I'm the co-founder CEO at Lydia AI, where we're on a mission to improve the health and prosperity of the next billion people. What we do as a company is we produce these AI-based digital risk scores that allow any applications to actually embed insurance products that are both personalized and can be underwritten automatically. So we actually started at the University of Toronto, and all of our R&D teams are actually based in Canada. But by nature of our business, we actually went to market in Asia first. Our clients are insurance companies, banks, and increasingly what we're calling more like customer platforms. And I participated in 2 missions with the Asia-Pacific Foundations, the first one to Thailand and Korea, and the second one was the Venture for Sustainability. I actually got a lot out of these missions, so I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to actually share some of our key things that I learned myself and some of the things that helped us be really, really successful in these missions. In reflecting on these 2 missions, my 2 general pieces of advice here are, if you're selected to go, the first thing is you really want to know what you want based on a hypothesis on how you're going to enter the target market. And that's going to be based on market research. Maybe you've already talked to some people. You should have at least a go-to market hypothesis on what's going to work. And that's really going to help you direct what's going to help. The second thing is leverage the credibility that this mission is going to give you. You're a foreign company entering what is traditionally a more risk-averse region of the world. Like we operate in Korea and Japan, and Taiwan. These places are a bit more risk-averse. So how do you use the credibility that a Asia-Pacific Foundation and the government entities are going to be able to afford you? How do you actually leverage that to accelerate some of these things that you might have going on in these markets? So in participating in these missions, you will likely be facing 1 or 2 scenarios. The first one is you'll be entering a market where you already have some sort of traction. This is maybe you already have a proof of concept in there, you have some partners in there, you already know some folks. And these type of scenarios, I found it really helpful. So that was the case for us in Korea. So I found it really helpful on 2 angles. The first is, hey, we use the mission to actually go after people that we haven't been able to reach, or people that we've tried to reach and that have just like ignored us before them, because they'll be like, who are you? We don't know you guys are not even Korean. Who are you guys? And having that extra credibility from the Asia Pacific Foundation and all of our trade commissioners really got us to oomph. So we were able to get on the calendar of some folks that we haven't been previously been able to capture the attention of. And the second thing that's really great if you have some traction is, hey, there might be some people that are on the fence about you. They're probably distribution partners. They've talked to you a couple of times. They like what you're doing, but you haven't given them a compelling reason on why they should actually pull the trigger on you. So if that's the case, now you have this mission. It's a time thing. There's really good press release around it. There's lots of people supporting it. You can just tell them, hey guys, like I'm coming in for this thing. I'm committed to working in this market. Would you be open to signing an MOU? So that's something that we actually did with the mission in Korea. Super helpful. Got 2 distribution partners actually signed during the mission. So that's something for you to consider as well. And the second scenario is markets that you're thinking about, you have some hypothesis into, but you might not have that much traction into. In markets like these, this was actually our case in Thailand for us, where we had some initial conversations going on, but it wasn't one of the markets that we either already had traction or knew a lot about. So in cases like this, we had a hypothesis on how we would operate in these markets, and we knew what type of companies we needed to target. And then essentially what you're really asking is, hey, like, do you know enough about these markets so that you can actually ask the right questions if you were put in front of people who really knew the markets? Or you're going to have 15-20 minutes in the B2B matching with them. Like in that short amount of time, can you actually ask meaningful enough questions that you get some intel on it so you can better inform your go-to-market there? Or maybe, hey, you never know, something might come across your table, and that's just going to really accelerate your pace at which you want to actually enter that country. So those are the 2 scenarios that we experienced personally during the mission, and how I would navigate both to really make sure that you're getting the most out of this mission. Sorry, I can't be here live. I'm actually in Asia, so it's probably the middle of the night when you guys are doing the panel session right now. Overall, super awesome, accelerated both our markets, all of it, and really helped us grow and gain that credibility we needed as a foreign company operating in these markets. So best of luck. I really do hope you consider applying. It's super awesome. You're going to have a great time, learn a lot, and hopefully grow your business as well. That's it from me for now. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
That's great. Thank you, Christina. I know you're sleeping, but we'll thank you anyway. So this opens up to the Q&A session. I'm going to hand it over to you, AW, to ask, to look at the questions that have come in the chat line.
Yeah, so I'll give the audience members an opportunity to ask questions if they haven't already into the question and answer box available to you. We have a couple of questions for the entrepreneurs as well as Christine. So one of them is, how do you and the team select target markets or for a trade mission, and what are the factors considered in this decision-making process?
Okay. I've been with the government before joining the APFC, and I'll tell you a funny answer. During the Team Canada days, and some people who may be online from our supporting organizations may remember, but I remember somebody telling me that they have a map of the world in front of them and they throw darts, and that's the country that it lands on is what they select as the target market. But that's not what we do. I just thought I'd throw that in. As I mentioned earlier in my discussion, this time we specifically decided to combine a Northeast Asian advanced economy with a Southeast Asian emerging economy as our template, partly because, as I explained before, a lot of the Northeast Asian countries have been investing in the Southeast Asian countries and helping them to grow their economies. And we felt that there would be synergy if we picked one from each, and the potential outcome for Canadian companies could be doubled or tripled through the visiting the 2. And in terms of actually selecting the countries, we've obviously, our research team does a lot of work, including Sylvia and Sue and AW and Julia, to find out which are the most prospective markets for our delegations to go to. So we look at how the economy is doing, what are the sectors that are scaling, is it a fit for the types for the women entrepreneurs who generally we know which sectors that they occupy in Canada, mainly occupy in Canada. And from that, we do a selection. We might, because the Indo-Pacific is so important right now, we do look at Southeast Asian nations, and we find the matching Northeast Asian advanced economy that has a fit with that country. That's roughly what we've been doing, I think.
Yeah, and I'll just add, because there are Trade Commissioner Service orgs online right now, that we do consult with our embassies in market to determine the best sectors, to really pitch the case for their market too, and so that we have a coherent and cohesive theme for our trade mission, and that we can connect our delegates directly to opportunities that suit them.
And the other thing too is, in addition to our Canadian Trade Commissioner Service, we consult the missions in Canada of the various economies in Asia and get their take and their advice before we actually make a decision on the markets that we're going to go to.
Exactly. So, and so we have a question for an entrepreneur, and I'll pose it to one of those that are online right now. And Gina had mentioned the importance of follow-up, and I know that Bronwyn, you had mentioned that you can turn on your camera too. You had mentioned that there were some concrete follow-ups that you've been able to follow on after the trade mission. So can you give some concrete advice, some guidance on how to best follow up with potential partners that you connect with, how to capitalize on those new relationships?
Yeah, I think having a good CRM is step one. And we learned that the hard way the very first time I think we did a conference. And ever since then, it's kind of been an underscore. Always, I think too, we talk about like business etiquette, and when you're there, like exchanging business cards, exchanging them properly, and that it's a really important thing and how we do it. And so what I always do is kind of afterwards is write a note down on the business card or attach the business card to something, so I know exactly, like, during that conversation, what was it we said we were going to follow up about, and trying to do it within like a week. I feel like it shows that you're definitely interested in it, and it's a good follow up. And I think if they reach out to you, you should take that as definitely like they're really interested in that meeting, and you need to make sure that you follow up on it as well. And I told Christine not to say it anymore, but that deals move slow. But I think that comes with like NDAs and stuff too, that when we went, we were told, it might be difficult to get them to sign, but on a couple of the missions so far, we've been able to get people to sign it right there and then. So I think it just ensuring that you definitely have your side protected, whether it's through NDAs or MOUs or whatever it is, but making sure you have your ground covered, and then trying to expedite it, because as I mentioned too, the time change, knowing that once you send an email, you're already like kind of losing a day waiting for their reply back and forth. So unless you're working all hours of the night from the time zone you're in, trying to understand that time will just keep getting pushed because of the time zone changes. Follow-up is incredibly important, just to show that you're definitely engaged, and knowing that like the actual deal itself may take a while. For us, that's a healthcare contract or clinical trial work that has a really long timeline. So starting it early and making sure that you follow up right after people are engaged while it's fresh in their mind and they don't meet other people that might even be competitors, like you've jumped on the opportunity. So just underscoring that it's important to do the follow-up. The best way is keep a CRM, keep track of who your leads are and how you're organizing them, but also like just jot down notes. So when you have the meeting, after the meeting, you might both sit there. And I think one thing I really loved about the B2B in South Korea is we sat there and a couple of us looked at each other and said, we are no good to each other, but we're going to be honest and say there's no point to do follow-up between us for us, but I might be able to help you with something else. And so I think there was a lot of trade-off of they might know someone who's better, and that meetings weren't ever really a waste because they ended up pushing us to a different contact. But at least writing that down and knowing like, don't bother following up with them about working together, but maybe follow up with them about this person they mentioned that could be useful. So jotting notes down and having a CRM, definitely key.
Good.
That's really important advice. I would just add that if you're writing things down on people's business cards, don't do it in front of them.
No, not in front of them. Absolutely do not do it in front of them. Sometimes like tagging it onto like in a binder, like I tape them in and then on a notepad I'll write it. And if we're really lacking on resources, it might be like a NDA in the corner. Remember to send them that or something.
And I
Yeah.
think that's really good advice about the follow-up because and you might be able to speak to this, the importance of in-person follow-up too. If I know you're traveling to Asia all the time, traveling everywhere all the time actually. But that in-person
Yeah. Shows
connection.
intent
Yeah.
and enthusiasm and that you really want this thing. So I think that I remember a past delegate, one of our first trade missions, the person said that like you or who was it, Christina, they had some discussions going on before, and Reina said that too. And but they got put on the fence type of thing. Yeah, we're interested, but nothing happened for a couple of years. Went on the mission, bang, they signed right there because the answer that came out of the business partner in Japan at the time was that you took the time and spent the money to come and see us, so we're going to invest in you. We have another prospective partner, but we're going to give it to you. And so I think that in-person really, really shows intent and seriousness, and I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, and I like the point that you made about no meeting is a waste, because even if things don't result in a deal right then and there, that doesn't mean it was a waste. And in fact, I'll ask Gina to come back on because I know that while you, Gina, you had some success in Korea. You had mentioned previously that had led to things domestically, and I wanted to know if you could speak to that, or Bronwyn, if you have an example of how meetings in Asia might have resulted in surprising leads here at home.
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. That's really good. Yeah, I mean, the meetings in Asia actually led me to learn how other countries in South Asia are working in relationship with companies here in Canada, and knowing that having the local connection, when I say local, I mean in Canada, domestic connection is really important because we don't have to do a lot of exporting, importing. If there's another local domestic company that's already doing it, we've already got we've already eliminated at least 6-7 months of work where the product here is on the ground. Let's just work with the Asia and the partners that are local, that are already connected back in Asia to keep the momentum going forward. So that was a highlight of what we've learned here domestically. So even though we still have that sort of virtual or Zoom connection with the partners in South Asia, we can actually do face-to-face here in meetings in Edmonton, where the partner is that we're looking at, meeting with people here in BC, et cetera. So the network system, as a result of the trip to South Asia, has opened up, believe it or not, the domestic connection that I needed here. So thank you.
It's a long way to go. It's a long way to go to find connections back in your home country, but it worked.
That's how it works. And my last point to add on to that too is the same idea. I think it gives you credibility too, in that, in the sense of, in North America, they only want to know who you're working with. They're like, well, who else are you working with? And a lot of the times it's confidential or you can't pass it on. But if you all of a sudden are like, wow, we're working with this university in South Korea or whatever it might be, they're like, oh, wow. Okay, that's pretty far. Like, that must be an established connection, because why would you end up with a random person in a random country like that? And so I think that credibility can help here, and then vice versa in the conversations in South Korea. As soon as we mentioned who we're working with here in North America, they instantly were like, oh, okay, so you're legit and we should actually have the conversation. And the in-person follow-up of, we went on this South Korea mission and then ultimately went on the Team Canada trade mission and did that as a follow-up to the meetings we had on this mission, and it went super good. That a doctor who normally spends 30 minutes maximum in a meeting spent 3.5 hours with me at the university hospital just to have a follow-up conversation about working together. So I think that the in-person, because they weren't answering my emails all the midst in between until it's, hey, I'm going to be in person, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'll talk to you again. So the in-person face-to-face is definitely key and good credibility.
Yeah, going back to your point about the business cards, I do the same thing. And you know, if you got as many business cards over my decades of working, you can imagine. So unless I put those little cheat notes on them, you know, I can't remember who's who, right? So I think it's very important. It's kind of old school. If for you, you know, you're a millennial, maybe a Gen Z. Is she a Gen Z?
I think so.
She's a
yes.
Gen Z.
I don't know what
A
I am,
Gen
guys.
Z
I'm not
versus
sure.
you know, whatever. It's using the same format, but I think it's
But I
important.
think it's business cards too. I love that they actually still like them because it is
Mm.
like my physical reminder. Oh, I need to follow up. Whereas if it's on my phone or in an
Yeah.
email, it can get lost. So I think physical is great. And one thing I actually did before this mission was we put my face on the business card. And that has since actually went over super well because people are like, hey, I remember that person from the meeting that I had.
That is helpful.
Actually, that's very helpful. You know, it's a former ambassador to Japan in Ottawa. I was shocked because, you know, I shouldn't say it so publicly, but you know, diplomats are generally old school, right? And the first time I met him, he presented his business card with a great big photo of his face on his card. Oh, wow, you know, but you can't forget the face, right? So I think it's really important, especially when you're giving out hundreds of business cards. And Elena, you know, in Japan, you go to a trip to Japan and you got to take hundreds of cards with you because you'll run out, right? So I think it's a good practice. Good for you. I think maybe I'll do that, but I'll put a dog's face or something.
So Rina, I'm glad you came back on screen because I wanted to ask you, having been before that, I want to remind the webinar audience that you can add questions if you have any about the process. Our team can answer them. Any experience of the delegates on screen, happy to answer those. But Rina, since you joined us on our very, very, very first trade mission, as well as a later trade mission in 2022, could you give us some insights from your perspective as a delegate entrepreneur about the way things that may have changed, and it was the same market too, so Japan. So if you, and pre and post, sort of post COVID, can you give us some insights from your perspective?
Or
Yeah.
differences you saw between the first and the last one you went on.
Right, right. I mean, we were certainly already blown away by the first mission, with the opportunity to tour different sites and see the innovation in market, the opportunity to participate in the symposium locally where politicians and innovators and the movers and shakers in Japan, like what they were thinking about and what their current struggles and their thinkings were. You know, we had a lot of takeaways from there. By the second mission, you know, I was really impressed with the quality of the B2B meetings where it was set up speed dating style. You know, you would do your preparations around who you'd want to meet with, and you can specify exactly which companies you want to meet with, whether it's a first contact or a repeat contact, or be a little bit more general around sort of, I'm looking for companies or organizations that do XYZ. And, you know, the APF, you know, mentioned earlier, they rely on a local entity to connect or delegation with pertinent organizations. And I think that's a great call because the organizations APF chooses really know sort of who the players are and which companies are relevant to in terms of sort of working with overseas companies. And so it was a highly intense, but very, very productive day when we had the B2B sessions. And I think that's what I really enjoyed the second go around that we didn't have the first go around.
Mm.
Of course, the opportunities to sort of partake in the beautiful events put on by the APF are, just out of this world great. But in terms of advancing your business missions, the B2B missions I thought were where it's at. And I would love to see that again in the upcoming mission for the delegation.
Thank you for that, Reina. And I can tell you that that was a learning trajectory for us. From the very beginning one, we did put out all the flashes and everything else, but we realized over the number of years that we've done this, that what really counts are the deals. We need to get business deals for the women. That's why we're in the business doing this, right? So we've put a lot of, and kudos to my team, under AW's worked really hard to try to improve that, do interviews with prospective companies that do B2B service provision. And I can tell that, there's a lot of emphasis on that. And even this morning, we had a meeting with one of the thought leaders who's got a PhD. She's a professor, but has been doing the Vietnam market for a long, long time. And we told her at the end of the day, what counts are the B2B. So you have to help us find the best one. And he's interviewed 5 already. And he's narrowed it down to 2, but we're going to take those 2 companies and consult the Canadian mission overseas, as well as her and the mission over here in Ottawa. And then we'll pick the finalized. So that process of picking the B2B service provider is one of our key ones that keeps me awake at night. Yeah. Anyway, I think that no further questions are coming in. So this, I would like to say that this brings to a close our program for today. I hope that you found this session useful and informative. And I'd like to first of all thank our panelists, including Christina, who's overseas sleeping, but Bronwyn, Gina, Reina, thank you very much, as well as a shout out to my team, or to our team who've worked really hard to put this together. So I'd like to invite all of you who are interested in meeting women with similar interests in advancing women's economic empowerment through business to register for membership in CanWIN and join us at the CanWIN Global Summit on June the 21st, 2024 in Toronto at the Manulife headquarters office. We have a fantastic program which you can find on the CanWIN Global Summit. We have it on screen right now. We have a special panel of Indigenous entrepreneurs and business leaders coming from New Zealand, Australia, and Taiwan, along with some Canadian Indigenous leaders here, and entrepreneur panel, women in leadership panel. We've got some real stars coming to speak. So I encourage you all to sign on, register as a CanWIN member, then we'll comp you, okay? You have to be a CanWIN member to get in for free. And those of you who are in the early stages of entrepreneurship online who'd like to try and pitch their businesses in front of the investors, both Asian and Canadians, and we have an international jury this time to apply to pitch at the session. You can apply. I think the information, AW can jump in here in a minute, but we'll select 5 finalists to pitch in front of the jury, and top 3 will get prizes. And they will also get constructive feedback from our professional investors at the session. Okay, so is there anything you want to add there, AW?
No. If you have any questions about either the trade mission or the pitch competition, which is happening at the CanWIN Global Summit, feel free to reach out to me or any of our team, and by email, by phone. Our contact is on our website.
So everybody, thank you very much for joining us today. Merci and bonne journée.